My hater is coming. Hey, don't shoot me. Please do not do this. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I never met my mom. Whenever I asked my dad about her, he would shrug and tell me that she left us when I was a baby. I believed this for a long time up until recently, about 2 years ago, when I discovered what my dad really was. I am 14 years old and live in a crummy, 2-bedroom apartment in the rundown section of the city with my dad and grandma. I have to share a room with my dad and my grandma is in the other room. We all have to share one bathroom. It's tough sometimes, but it's home for me. I have always lived with my dad and grandma ever since I can remember. My dad would go out during the day and work, and I would stay home with my grandma while she took care of me. Most nights it was just me and my grandma. My dad would not return home until 2 or 3 in the morning and would be gone by the time I woke up. Rarely did I ever see him save for weekends and holidays. I never knew where he was at these times. I assumed he was still at work trying to earn some extra cash. One night I had decided to stay up and see him come home. I was about 12 at this time. I sat in my bed for what felt like forever, when at 2:37 in the morning I hear the front door open. I quickly pretend to be asleep as to not get caught being up this late. My dad walked in the room completely silent. I peeked under the covers and saw that his shirt was covered in splotches and stains. It was too dark to see what color they were, but I had assumed it was either paint or oil, as my dad did some kind manual labor as a job. He folded it and hid it under some clothes in his drawer and shut it. He then got in his boxers and went to bed. I fell asleep soon and woke up the next morning to my grandma standing over my bed telling me she had breakfast cooked. I got out of bed and glanced over at the drawer. It looked the same as it did last night. I came into the kitchen and ate the breakfast my grandma had made. Obviously, she spotted that I was extremely tired and asked if I slept okay last night. Quickly coming up with a lie, I told her that I had a nightmare and couldn't go back to sleep after it. She felt sympathetic towards me and handed me a cup of coffee. "This should wake you up real quick," she said to me. I told her to thank you and started to drink. "That coffee helps your dad wake up every morning. He doesn't get much sleep, you know." I nodded. With all the things he does in the night, I don't know how he functions. I used this as my chance to ask her about what he does at night. "Oh, just some stuff. I can't get too specific. He doesn't like to talk about it." I shrugged and told her to thank you for breakfast. I walked back into my room to get changed out of my pajamas when I remembered the shirt. I opened the same drawer my dad had stuffed it in and found multiple red-stained shirts at the bottom under his normal clothes. I examined the shirts and found that it wasn't painted, but blood. This answered my questions. My dad wasn't working. He was killing. Once again I stayed up late to see him come home, but this time, I would confront him. I waited until 3:09 when he walked in. I hid under the covers until he walked in. I sat up. He was shocked, to say the least. I began pressing him, asking about the shirts, and why Grandma wouldn't tell me about his job. He finally sighed and told me to follow him. We walked across the apartment into Grandma's room, a place I didn't go in much. She woke up and asked what was going on. He told her that it was time to show me. He pushed a bookshelf in her room and behind it was a small door. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a key, putting it into the door. Slowly it opened and revealed a small, dank room I had never seen. Inside there were weapons. Guns, knives, bats, you name it. All around the wall. In the middle was a table with bloodstains on it, and in the corner was a small trapdoor. He walked over to the trapdoor, opened it, and instructed me to climb down the ladder. It was a good 10 feet when I reached the bottom. Down there it smelled like dirt and rotting flesh. My dad and grandma soon joined me. He flipped on the lights, revealing a large empty dirt room. In the corner were shovels and a dirt compactor. He looked at me and asked, "Do you want to know what really happened to your mother?" I slowly nodded. "When I and your mother were married, I found out she was having an affair. This angered me. So I killed her and buried her body down here." I listened intently as he told me the gruesome way he killed her. A grin was forming on my face. Ever since then I cannot forgive anyone for doing such a horrible act, so I punished them. By now all of us had a smile on our faces. That's what I do every night. I kill every son of a bitch I can find that cheated on their spouse and bury them down here. As I get older, it will be harder for me to find or kill these people, so I need someone to continue my work. I already knew where this was going, and I liked it. So, will you help me? I grinned and nodded. Good. Then tomorrow night, you will come with me. We all laughed and began to go back upstairs. Every time I murder someone, my bloodlust grows stronger and stronger. I feel immortal as I slice people's head off or stab their heart. It feels great. Moral of the story: don't cheat on your spouse, or you might be next.